Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to talk about rendering, which is a shading colouring technique which allows you to make objects look realistic. What we want to try and achieve is some sort of finish on our drawings where we give the impression that something might look actually like timber. So as you can see with this wooden block here, you've got these patterns, these grain lines. You can also see as I turn it in the light that you have darker and lighter patches as the light is hitting it. A plastic object very often is quite shiny and has a sort of glossy shine, and as I turn it in the light sometimes you can see the light reflecting. You still get the dark and lighter sides, but we want to show these sort of light streaks. So we're going to practice today just with some basic objects, starting with cubes. Start with an isometric cube if I were you. I've started one here. Remember, the vertical lines are parallel and these are 3 centimeters each. And the diagonal ones, I've also done 3 centimeters. Again, this is parallel with that. Don't forget your diagonals are at approximately a 30-degree angle. So I'm just going to finish this off to begin. Good idea to press lightly as you work. And then you can erase any mistakes if you need to. So start with just an isometric cube. If you need to pause and do that, you can. On this side, I'm going to do the 1-point perspective technique. You can use another technique if you prefer. So I've started with a square here, got my vanishing point, and then I'm going to do faint guidelines. Remember, these are faint because they're going to be erased afterwards. And each corner goes directly to that vanishing point. Don't forget, with the 1-point perspective technique, you need to go directly up so that this end is parallel with that. And then you go across, so that this is parallel with that. So if you need to pause and make these objects, please do. So you're going to start with an isometric and then a 1-point perspective cuboid object. Don't forget these guidelines, then get erased. Okay, so if you need to pause now and start with them, you can do. Now, rendering, it's not just as simple as shading or colouring. Rendering, we want to show some realism. So this object, to begin, I'm going to try and make it look plastic. Now, imagine you've got a light source. Let's say my light is coming from this direction. I'm going to have a light side, a dark side, and a medium tone. So using a colour, I want all of your strokes to be in the same direction. And as this is the dark side, don't be scared to press quite heavily. Make sure your table surface is flat. Okay, yeah, so press quite heavily. Go right to the edge. Notice all my pencil strokes are going in the same direction. What I try and do is minimize change in direction. I'm just going to do a little bit here and then make sure that's blended in. So you shouldn't see any white. As I said, don't be scared to press quite heavily. Okay? Now, that's one side. With the other side, you're going to do it lighter. So you build a medium tone. If you want to start your drawing, your own shading, you can do now. And then on the top, I'm going to actually leave some light streaks. So I'm going to shade one section here. And then I'm going to leave a part of the page completely blank. So I've got some white. I'm going to do that again. And then leave some more white. Might make this a narrower band. So that you have streaks of white, as if the light is shining off it. So I still need to finish this side. Get a nice medium tone. What I don't want to see are any patches of white where you meant to have a solid block of colour. So that's what I want you to try and achieve with the plastic. Okay, to make it look like plastic, have a dark, medium, and then a light side, and try and leave some white streaks as if light is shining off. Remember, to make it stand out on the page, a good idea is to use the thick and thin line technique. So my internal lines, I'm going to use a pen here. So these would be thin, and then the outer lines I'm going to go over several times to make them heavier. Then you can make it stand out on the page. All right. So thin inner lines and thick outer lines. This thick line should actually go the whole way around. Okay. This thick line should go all the way around. Now that's plastic, so that's rendering with white streaks to make it stand out on the page. I'm also going to show you how to render something to make it look like it's wooden. Now I'm going to get browns. I'm going to start with a dark brown shade, and what I want to make it appear as if there are grain patterns. So I'm going to press quite heavily with my dark brown, slowly building up these annual rings. Often you'll see these patterns at the end of a wooden block. Okay, as they get bigger, you can gradually start to space them out more. Okay, and you'll end up just with corners then. Now, once you've done one end, you can then sort of illustrate how grain patterns might appear along the length of the wood. Okay, so they're going to be dark, quite heavy, and they might show where they join up. So here, where there's a curve here, from that point, I'm going to go down. Same here. Same here. What you might also do is have dark patches where you want to show, say, a knot. A knot is where wood grows out, like a branch grows out the side. So that's the dark brown. You can then either press lightly, or you can choose a lighter brown, and then you can just go over the whole thing. Okay, and this will show you the general colour of the wood. So we can do this for the whole object now. So once you can also show like a darker side by just pressing a bit more heavily with your brown. You still want to see those grain lines in there, and you can also press lighter. So my tips: try and get your pencil strokes in the same direction. Don't have any white on the page unless you're showing light streaks for a plastic object. And when it's all done, don't forget thin internal lines with a pen and thick outer lines. Just to do your thick lines, just press a few times to build it up, and then it will really look like it's standing out on the page. You don't have to do isometric on 1 point. You could do oblique, and you could do 2 point. You could do isometric and 2 point. It's up to you. So you could stretch and challenge yourself. Also, you don't even have to do cubes. If you wanted to say, do another shape, like a letter. Let's say your initial was T. You could also start by doing an object and then trying to render that. But what I do want to see is one object rendered to look like plastic, dark, medium tone, light streaks. One object rendered to look like wood. So grain patterns and then shading over in brown. All right, best of luck.